Let's now tell you that Nigeria's Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee held a policy exposure workshop with journalists in Lagos. The purpose was to inform journalists about the draft of the 2024 National Fiscal Policy and its proposed constitutional amendment on fiscal matters. News Centre's business correspondent, Perpetua Fasanmi-Peter, was there and filed this report.
Report. The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee holding a policy exposure session with journalists. The purpose of this session is to intimate them with recommendations in the 2024 National Fiscal Policy and other amendments that are geared towards making the tax system better in Nigeria.
Do away with nuisance taxes with very low revenue yield, which are very costly to collect and place a lot of burden on the poor and small businesses. Do away with them. Then focus on high revenue yielding taxes that are broad-based and relatively easy to collect, and they are few in numbers. Then merge them together if they are similar and impose on the same tax base so that instead of paying 4, I pay only 1. And keep the total number of taxes across all levels of government to a single digit, and then institutionalize the reform so that they don't reverse it.
In line with the committee's vision to harmonize tax collection and streamline the number of taxes to 8 categories, it proposed the creation of a central tax agency to be known as the National Revenue Service. It also proposed a 5% reduction in the country's company income tax rate, a steady custom import duty rate of 800 naira to $1, and seeks to exempt of the informal sector from all taxes.
Our proposals cannot be approved if it's going to mean that government will lose a lot of money. Our estimation is more than 60%. So we thought that we also need to do an upward adjustment to VAT rate on items that are not food, education, health, accommodation, transportation. What that means is if you are buying a mobile phone, once our proposal is approved, you then have to pay a little bit more. You are buying a car, you need to pay a little bit more. But if you are a business, the extra you are paying, you are claiming everything back, so it still doesn't affect you as a business.
Some of the committee's proposed constitutional amendments on fiscal matters include 1. Qualification for election, Section 65, 135 and 177, which seeks to ensure that individuals meet their tax obligations before contesting elections. 2. Presidential pardon, Section 175, which seeks to exclude individuals convicted of corruption from presidential pardon. Another is budgetary reforms.
Since government has to come up with a budget every year for them to spend, based on the Constitution, why can't we amend the Constitution to say, as we are coming to tell you the budget for next year, please bring the audited account for the previous year? It's just logic, isn't it? And common sense.
This is what analysts and economists think about the recommendations.
Looking at what this committee is doing, I'm an excited Nigerian and a business owner. I'm sure Mr. President is waiting with his pen to sign off on what they produce eventually. So I'm not worried about the executive signing off. I'm more worried about what happens when the recommendations get to the National Assembly.
The committee, inaugurated by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, operates on 3 pillars: fiscal governance, revenue transformation, and economic growth facilitation. Having completed the drafting of the amendments, the committee aims to secure all necessary approvals by the end of the 3rd quarter of 2024. Change management, implementation of new technologies, and training are scheduled for Q4 2024. In Lagos, for News Central, Perpetua Fasanmi-Peter.
Many thanks, Perpetua. To discuss this, we're joined by Abiodun Kayode Ali, Senior Manager, Tax and Regulatory Services, PwC Nigeria. It's good to have you on the news. I didn't quite get that, but I'll just go ahead and ask the question and hope that the audio will be good. While a central tax agency offers potential benefits, are there any concerns about the feasibility of successfully merging over 100 existing agencies into a single Nigeria Revenue Service? How can these challenges be addressed?
Okay, yes, I will expect that there might be pushback from other agencies because I'm sure historically we've seen situations whereby these agencies have they've battled it out with respect to who should be collecting what, right? Most of these agencies, even though they were not set up for revenue generation, most of them have taken it upon themselves to try to generate revenue. So one might begin to see pushback from this regard. But I think one thing that the executive should be looking at would be to look at the greater good for the entire country, even other agencies, right? So I think the executive have a lot of they need to come in here. They have a big role to play in trying to ensure that there is that cooperation among agencies. So it's all for the good of the country. One thing that is guaranteed is that there is definitely going to be efficiency and there's going to be an increase in revenue collected. So it's for the greater good of the country.
The report highlights eliminating taxes that impede businesses. Can you analyze the potential impact of this recommendation on specific sectors of the Nigerian economy and job creation?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? So there are different sectors of the economy, especially those sectors that from a GDP perspective have been even driving GDP growth. So telecommunication is one sector that has been a major driver in the service sector of our GDP growth. So if you look at the ICT sector, they are burdened with numerous amounts of taxes. I think currently we've heard about 43 taxes that they currently face. Things such as right-of-way, things such as environmental impact assessment levies, and different sorts of levies. In fact, there are ridiculous levies that you hear of, things such as ozone layer levy, right? So all these levies, one thing it does is that it pushes up the cost of these particular companies, and it makes the ease of doing business something of a mirage, right? It makes it difficult to do business in Nigeria, and it also pushes away investors. So therefore, as long as these costs continue to show in the bottom line of these companies, what they do is that they try to reshuffle it, right? They try to reduce other costs, such as labor costs. So as long as if we're able to eliminate this cost, these taxes, these numerous nuisance taxes, we then see that these companies have that they have that capacity to absorb laborers, right? So it's definitely going to profit not just the government, it will profit individuals who come in as employees and they are able to pay their own personal income taxes to the respective states. So it's a win-win if the government is able to do away with these nuisance taxes.
Thank you, Abiodun, for speaking with us.
Thank you, Felicity.